Though not as controversial as The Last Jedi, the previous film in the new Star Wars series has nonetheless divided the Star Wars fan base. Most of the critic scores are fantastic, but if you speak to any longtime fans of the original films, you'll discover that The Force Awakens disappointed a great minority and a vocal minority of the Star Wars fan base. A vocal minority that is increasing to this very day. There are many who want producer Kathleen Kennedy fired, while others blame director JJ Abrams for merely recycling the old formula from the original films. I can understand some of these complaints, but I vehemently disagree with all of them. I absolutely adore The Force Awakens. It's exponentially better than the prequel films. It's better than New Hope and Return of the Jedi. It's more fun than Empire Strikes Back. It's one of my favorite movies in the past 20 years. Warning, there'll be spoilers ahead. I'll be discussing the entire plot and providing insights to my favorite aspects of The Force Awakens. Right from the start of the film, we as the audience learned that Luke Skywalker is MIA. Like the Empire from the originals and the Sith from the prequels, we have a new adversary, known as the First Order, led by a badass new villain named Kylo Ren. Kylo is the obvious homage to Darth Vader. He's covered in black, wears a mask, and is supremely talented in the Force. In the opening sequence of the film, a pilot by the name of Poe Dameron fires a single blast at the Fiend, and Kylo Ren halts it in midair, freezing in place. It's an astounding feat, unlike anything I've seen in Star Wars before or since. In the next scene, Kylo orders the stormtroopers to gun down the citizen of Jakku, man, woman, and child. One stormtrooper is horrified by the sight, a stormtrooper by the name of FN-2187. He refuses to follow the First Order's commands and instead frees Poe Dameron from his confinement. The two steal a TIE fighter together and make a daring escape to Jakku to locate Poe Dameron's missing droid BB-8, a droid that has in its possession the map to Luke Skywalker. On Jakku, we meet the main protagonist of this film. If God created an angel and gave the angel human shape, it'd be in the form of this character. She's a desert scavenger that's managed to survive on a harsh planet since she was a small child due to her skills in the Force. She's sublime, a woman of unparalleled beauty and integrity. She's one of the most awesome, ingenious, bodacious, dreamy, mystifying, spellbinding, gorgeous, sharp, and brilliant characters ever. In her debut scene, we see a single day in the life of the character of Rey, played beautifully by Daisy Ridley. And the first few minutes that we get of her tell us more about her than almost any other character in a movie in its entire runtime. These scenes accomplish what every film hopes to accomplish in its runtime. It informs us of this character perfectly without telling us directly through dialogue. It's a perfect introduction for this compelling character. One of my favorite scenes occurs after Rey meets the droid BB-8. She's offered a ridiculous number of portions for the droid, so many that in fact it gives Rey pause.
I'll pay for him. 60 portions.
It's a fantastic scene that establishes the type of person that she is without directly telling the audience. The traitor stormtrooper, renamed Finn, crash lands on Jakku and runs into Rey and BB-8. Finn lies and says he's with the Resistance. He's too ashamed to admit who he really is. Rey, in a moment of naivete, believes him. Finn reveals that the droid BB-8 contains a map to Luke Skywalker. Before the two can discuss the situation further, they're ambushed by the First Order. Part of what makes this movie so rewatchable is non-stop action. The movie is fast-paced and never lets up for a second. 2 hours you spend in the theater at home watching the Blu-ray go by in a flash. The first chase scene involving Rey and Finn working together and becoming friends is exhilarating. Rey's classic line, "The garbage will do," for boarding the Millennium Falcon after a ship blows up directly in front of their faces, never gets old. Daisy Ridley and John Boyega do an outstanding job in this scene. Rey exhibits marvelous fight skills, and Finn blasts enemy ships with ease. The Falcon is truly a sight to behold as well. The special effects in Force Awakens are absolutely remarkable. They're practical yet modern, and capture the eye in a way that I've never seen before in any movie. It really puts the audience through the world and immerses them into the action. In a later scene, Finn secretly reveals to BB-8 that he isn't part of the Resistance. He whispers to Rey to keep from overhearing him. Finn gives BB-8 the thumbs up, to which the droid BB-8 responds, upon a mechanical light to mimic the gesture. This response made the entire theater erupt in laughter. It's one of the many moments that make BB-8 equally, if not more endearing of a character than R2-D2 from the original films. In the next scene, we are reintroduced to Han Solo as an elderly man. The second that he and his best friend Chewbacca appeared, the entire crowd applauded. He reveals that he knew Luke Skywalker, and the legend of the Jedi, the Sith and the dark side, and the light. It's all real. Rey and Finn are mystified by this. This new generation is in fact us. We are with Rey and Finn, and we get to know them intimately as they discover the expanding and fascinating mythology that is Star Wars. Later, the crew arrive at a new planet that is beautiful, in perfect contrast to Jakku. Rey is touched beyond words and remarks that she never knew that there was so much green in the whole galaxy. Han gives her a sympathetic look, realizing how abandoned Rey must have been as a child. He approaches her as a potential father figure and offers her a job. Rey is flattered by the idea of being part of his crew, but a part of her is still in Jakku, waiting for her parents to come back for her. Han Solo introduces Rey and Finn to Maz Kanata, who is brought to life and played exquisitely by Lupita Nyong'o. She explains that the First Order is a continuation of the Sith and Empire. Han asks Maz to keep the droid BB-8 in safekeeping, but she refuses, and requests Han Solo to join Leia in the fight against the First Order. Finn knows what the First Order can do and is terrified of them. He tells Rey the truth, that he is really a stormtrooper who is trying to escape the First Order. He abandons the team and Rey is left on her own. The next scene is one of the most speculative moments in the entire film. It's a scene that has sparked numerous theories and discussions across the fan base. Rey finds Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, and that moment that is touched, she enters a bizarre vision in which she sees flashes from her youth, as well as flashes of Luke Skywalker. We see a brief glimpse of events that we won't learn about until the next installment, The Last Jedi. After we watch this movie at least 6 or 7 times, I can confidently state that I have an idea of what's going on in this scene. Pay close attention. You guys the subtleties, you can hear the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, call Rey by name, before stating the ambiguous line, "These are the first steps." How can this be? How could Obi-Wan possibly know her by name? There has to be a connection there. Maz Kanata tells Rey that the lightsaber is calling out to her. She says that whoever Rey is waiting for in Jakku is not coming back for her. Their destiny lies not in what's behind her, but what's in front of her. She offers Rey a chance to join the Resistance, but Rey refuses and runs off into the woods. In a truly outstanding display of modern special effects, General Hux gives a passionate speech and orders the destruction of several planets and the base of operations of the Resistance. I could not but get a Nazi vibe from the Hux and the rest of the First Order. This symbolism is obviously present in Star Wars previously, but I can't but feel this is much more pronounced here. The audience is also introduced to the leader of the First Order, Supreme Leader Snoke. We see him as a massive hologram projected in front of Kylo Ren as he reveals that the droid is in fact the presence of his father, Han Solo. This is the first time we learn of Kylo's lineage, and encouraged before we even see his face. Our heroes are attacked by the First Order once again. Chewbacca, Han Solo, and Finn battle a group of invading stormtroopers while Kylo Ren pursues Rey in the woods. Kylo Ren captures Rey and brings her back to his ship while the rest of the team plans their next attack. We are reintroduced to Leia Organa as she and Han Solo discuss their son. Leia senses that there's good in him and that he can be saved. This is an obvious mirror to the situation in the original trilogy concerning Darth Vader. What I like about this, though, is that the implied history here. There's so much more that is left unsaid and that the audience must infer from their own intuition and knowledge of Star Wars. Despite the ending of the Return of the Jedi, things were happily ever after Luke and his friends defeated the Emperor and saved the galaxy. Once Kylo Ren was seduced by Snoke, everything went disarray once again. Turning him to the light side seems to be the one hope that the Resistance has of prevailing. Kylo Ren introduces himself to Rey. This is the first time we see him unmasked. He attempts to force read Rey's mind and locate the secret of the droid BB-8, but Rey miraculously reverses the Jedi mind trick on him and exposes his weakness. Kylo Ren has the inferiority complex and sees Darth Vader as his idol. Later, when Kylo leaves to inform Snoke of this, Rey uses a Jedi mind trick on a nearby stormtrooper, has him release her from her metal straps. These remarkable feats of prowess is what many critics of The Force Awakens point out when they argue that Rey is a Mary Sue. Even Kylo remarks that it's staggering that a girl who's untrained can be so strong in the Force. I must admit, being a fan of this movie, I can still see where some of the critics among the fandom are coming from. It's odd to have a seemingly random girl who came from a desert planet to be able to resist the commander of the First Order like this. Still, I can't deny how incredibly cool it was to watch the stormtrooper's body conform to Rey's command and drop his gun after Rey said that as an afterthought. I'm willing to take whatever leap in logic is required to buy it. Finn and Han Solo enter the First Order's rebel base on a rescue mission. Not only does Finn plan to rescue Rey, but Han Solo told Leia that he would attempt to bring out Kylo Ren back home. Finn and Han run to Captain Phasma, and Finn decides to throw it in a trash compactor before proceeding. This angered a lot of fans as well. Apparently, Captain Phasma was supposed to be a big deal due to her being played by a character from Game of Thrones, her being prompted during the marketing of this film. Thing is, though, none of this has any bearing on the overall quality of the movie. She was intended to be a minor character, and she was just that. She played her role and left when she was no longer needed. I see no problem here. After Finn meets with Rey, Han Solo goes on to confront Kylo Ren, whose real name in fact is Ben Solo. He unmasks himself once again, and the two share a heart-to-heart as father and son. This is one of the best scenes in the entire Star Wars franchise in my opinion. Everything about the scene was handled with pure perfection. The tenderness in Kylo Ren's voice when he expresses the pain and conflict that he's feeling. I love how choked up he is. I love the ask his father for his help. And Han Solo reaches out to him. I also love that Rey, Chewbacca, and Finn are all in the same room, just yards away when Kylo unsheathes his saber and stabs his father through the stomach. They all gasp and exclaim in horror as Han Solo is knocked out at the balcony. And what's iconic hero departs from the franchise in epic fashion. It's an emotionally gripping scene and one that blows me away every time that I watch it, despite the fact that Han Solo is easily my favorite character. The final duel in the snow is one of the most intense lightsaber battles in the entire Star Wars saga. Finn takes his turn to fight Kylo Ren first, and is defeated easily. After Kylo reaches out for Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, it flies right past him and directly into Rey's firm grip. I get goosebumps every time I watch that single moment. The fearful and dismayed look in his eyes after she catches it, the newfound confidence that she feels right afterward, and the look of awe on Kylo Ren's face. Awe is up to so much more than the sum of its parts. Rey eventually overpowers Kylo Ren. It's a beautifully shot scene. Rey's attacks are swift and leave Kylo a cut, slashed, bloody, and humiliated mess on the ground. But the two are separated before he can be presumably killed. The movie ends with our heroes returning back to base, to which Rey is confronted by Leia after Han Solo's death. A girl that Leia doesn't know from Eve. I agree with the critics on this movie on one thing. That hug would have been better served for Chewbacca. This movie ends with Rey traveling to a mysterious island, where she finds Luke Skywalker hiding in isolation. She pulls out his lightsaber and outstretches her hand towards Luke. It is hands down one of the most perfect cliffhanger endings that I've ever seen in any movie. It makes the point perfectly clear without dialogue and without spoofing the audience anything. There were about 100 questions in my mind in the theater after The Force Awakens ended. That's exactly how you want to hook your audience and ensure the precision in the sequels. There is so much that Rey is communicating to Luke without using words. Her entire life, she has longed to fill the void created by disappearance for her parents, but reaching out to Luke in such a way, she's asking for guidance. She's asking for everything that she has been denied in her youth. Overall, The Force Awakens is a marvelous film and one that I will cherish for many years to come. I understand some of the misreception, but for some people to claim this is worse than the prequels, for me that's absurd and ridiculous. Not that I hate them, but I find the prequel trilogy to be mediocre at best, and I find the new trilogy to be just refreshing, possibly if not as exciting as the original trilogy, if not more. As far as the charge against this film by the politically minded, those who claim that Rey is a Mary Sue, and the new Star Wars movies are just a part of the SJW propaganda machine. Well, here's the thing. There might be some truth to that. In the end, Rey is extremely overpowered in this movie. But I suspect that the reason for this will be answered when we get to Episode 9. And sure, Star Wars is a part of the SJW propaganda machine. But guess what? In a way, so is everything else. Hollywood is dominated by virtue-signaling liberals, whether they are classic liberals or far left. Anything that comes out of their mouth needs to be taken with a grain of salt. One must learn to separate the art from the artist. I can't stand what Joss Whedon and what especially J.K. Rowling are saying these days with regards to politics and social issues. But I will always remain a devout fan of Harry Potter and Buffy the Vampire Slayer despite this. Likewise, I will always adore The Force Awakens, despite what JJ Abrams or Kathleen Kennedy may say or think. I make no apologies for it. At the end of the day, it's just a movie after all. And movies are meant to be fun. And I can declare with the utmost confidence that I've never ever had as much fun watching anything related to Star Wars before in my life. I have seen the first 3 seasons of Star Wars Rebels, case closed. Overall, I'll give The Force Awakens a masterful 10 out of 10.